Hey everybody, and welcome to the live stream. It seems like a month since I've been with you, and it actually has been probably almost a month, but it's so good to, I guess I should be looking here, so good to have you back on the live stream. I am getting my, there we go, camera's messed up again, but it's good to have you back. It's good to be back in the studio. It has been a long, crazy time. There we are. It's been a long, crazy time since I've been with you. Since the time I've been with you, I've been back and forth to Europe. If some of you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you have seen some of those pictures in my story. Had a great trip, a great time to Europe. So excited to be back in the studio and lots of reference photos. So tonight we're actually going to be working on some sketches from my time in Europe. So super excited to be back in the studio painting with all of you this evening. I hope that your summer is going well. I'm so grateful to be back in the mountains for the summer. We had there were 2 days at the end of the trip that we stayed in London, and while we were there, Europe had a crazy heat wave that came across it. So it was, I think, 95 or 98 in London. I guess it would have been a week ago Friday, or a week ago Friday. Anyway, Friday or Saturday, a week ago. And was really, really hot. I think Paris got up to like 108 Fahrenheit, so it was really bad. But we made it through, and then the next day it was like in the 60s, so it was a quick bump and then came back down. But I'm glad to be back in the mountains because my windows are open. So by way of saying that, if you hear street noise, this is prime tourist season for us here in the mountains. So you'll hear maybe motorcycles going by or 4x4s or other noise going on in the studio. That's just because my windows are open. And I think it's about, I stepped out on my patio because it was really nice right before the live stream, and I think it's about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's really beautiful, gets cool at night. Sunny during the day, and of course no humidity. So this is our payback time for winter here in the mountains, and so I enjoy every moment of it. So good to have you. Let's jump into this as we get going, and I will switch over to my other camera. So good to see you, Lola. As always, I missed you as well. I missed everybody. Hello, Daniel. So good to have you on the live stream. Thanks for joining us. And I see Mom and Dad also in the house. So good to see you as well. Glad to have you back in town. I'll switch my cameras around while you all are not made sick. I'll keep it on the other. There we go. And that way you all don't get motion sickness. I had a bout of seasickness the first few days of the trip on the boat. So that was not pleasant, but was able to get over that. And so it was not a bad trip overall. I'm getting used to talking and doing tasks again. It's been a while. Let's see. Oh, there we go. That's why it didn't look right. It's so funny how just a few weeks can kind of throw me out of... glad to be back in town. Yeah, the weather's amazing, isn't it? All right. Oh, seems like every time I change my camera, it messes things up. Okay, so this should be good for you today. And tonight we are going to... Oh, I was starting to say how just a few weeks away and all these skills get rusty. i.e. talking and dealing with cameras and painting and all the multitasking. All right, so what I've done, instead of canvas tonight, since we're just doing some sketches, I have some canvas paper up against the back of a canvas that I've already painted on. That way I can do these sketches, and I want to do a couple of sketches. One of the things that I want to work on is, hey there, Britt, so good to see you. It's been forever, my friend. I hope you're doing well. I'll give the spiel since there's some new people popping in the room. This live stream is pretty laid back, open house, pop in, pop out, see what we're painting. So tonight we're going to be doing a couple of scenes from Europe. Both of these are from Lisbon, the first stop on our trip. So let me pull up the first reference photo I want for you. All right, this is the Pantheon in Lisbon. It is a building that has had multiple uses over the centuries, or actually I won't say centuries because I don't know that it's centuries old, over the years, definitely decades, and now is a museum. I believe it was originally a church, but is now a museum that houses kind of the adulation for major figures in Portuguese history. So that is the Pantheon. We were not able to go in because it was not open when I was there, but it is a beautiful building. One of the things that I want to focus on over the next several years is really improving my ability to simplify composition. And so when we look at this photo, the reference photo, the main focal point, of course, is right here in the center, the dome of the kind of this basilica shape here. It's pretty well composed in that it's kind of in this upper third quadrant of the photo, and it is framed by the trees. The highlights on the trees are drawing the eye into the photo. So there's not a whole lot of adjustment that we want to do, but one of the things we're going to do is simplify some of the composition down at the bottom. So there's kind of the fence and the wall and grass and some tree stumps and things. We will put the center tree kind of in the middle, but I think I will actually make that tree all one. It actually is two across the walkway. We will eliminate the walkway because that just leads the eye horizontally across the painting and doesn't really add anything in. So let's play with this a little bit and let's get started drawing this composition. Leaving work and heading home now. It was great to see you as well, my friend. Great to see you as well. Let me move this over. Whoops. Can't grab this. I don't know why this is. There we are. Okay. So let's get started. We're going to use some burnt umber because we want a warmer, the tones of this building are warmer, so we're going to use the burnt umber and white to do some of this. All right, let me bring my seat around so I can kind of sit here comfortably. All right. And we'll start to jump back in. It has actually been, well, probably since the last time we were together that I've painted, so I feel surprisingly rusty, but that's all right. We'll just get in here and put in some of this framework that we want. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in almost out of, you see here on my palette, out of the bottle, the brown, and I want to lay in, as I lay in the the composition, I want to put in some of the shadows of this structure of this tree. So I'm just going to put some of this in. Let's see, we want it probably to come out to here. And I'm just doing some, like, I don't know what you'd call this, but kind of pigeon strokes. And we'll just get some of this in here. The darker, want to come over on this side and do the same thing. And we'll start to frame in some of this. We'll put these branches up here. And we'll start by doing this. We're starting to draw in not only the, I'll back you up a little bit, not only the value, can't think of the word I want, the value range for this painting, meaning the light and dark variations of the painting, but also the composition, where things are going to fall. So we'll make adjustments as we go. So I'm using this as the darkest darks. Hey there, Bob G. So good to see you. It was really great to catch up with you this past week. Okay. There's lots of negative space in this tree. This is really dark down in here. So I'll probably do some raw umber to kind of let's see. Oh, I was saying I'll use some raw umber to darken these values. Okay, then I'm going to come over here with this. I do think I'm going to put some raw umber in and some blue. That'll give us our blacks. Some more burnt umber. And then we will thank you so much, Legacy. We're getting there. I'm mixing these two browns for now. We want to start laying in our shadows, so I'm going to put those right in here. I may have some, as always, we're testing things out, and I'm not sure if these work or if it's going to work. I think I have the this will be all pretty much shadow, so there will be a few light spots, but we'll bring most of this into shadow. may have to raise some of this up a little bit. I may have misjudged this. So we'll just make adjustments as we go, as we do. Okay, now what I want to kind of do is begin to lay in some of the broad strokes for the how we're going to place this building. So let's put some of that in, and then we'll see if that matches where the where we have the trees. We'll kind of see how that comes together. Well, y'all, I purchased my second art book purchase. It is an art book called Mastering Composition, which is probably one of the reasons it's on my mind, by an artist named Ian Roberts, who's really a good, not only a good teacher, but a good artist. So I'm excited to dive into that. Little by little, as I become more knowledgeable, I am building more of a, I'm going to build an art library of specific books for specific reasons. So, all right, let's see. Let's start to make some major decisions. We see this, one of the major lines I see is this balcony, and it comes to about there and then goes like this. Then we'll have to, yeah, I'm going to have to bring this tree up, I think. It kind of does something like that. I'm just putting in rough ideas, some rough lines. You notice that I don't do a lot of buildings, or haven't to date. So this is a challenge to really, I did the lighthouse a few months ago. But I'm not as comfortable with buildings just because that is because I haven't done it as much, which would make sense, right? And it's easier to flub your way through a landscape than it is a building, kind of like with a person's face. So we shall see how this all turns about. We're going to simplify. I'm not going to do all the detail I see back here. We're just going to simplify those lines so that, again, the composition is simpler. So we want the most detail in our focal point. As the artist, we get to decide those things. The focal point is going to be this right here. So then we can decide. May need to shrink this down a little bit. And then this will just disappear into the trees. Okay. We're starting to get it. So when we step back and look, the thing I don't like is this is too big and it's too high, so I need to bring it down a little bit because I want it the whole thing in the painting. So when we adjust, I want to adjust this down. I need to bring these trees up. So I'll do some of that right now. Let's adjust this. We'll do these trees up because I still want it kind of this shape. So you'll notice I'm using a lighter chroma of the brown to bring in the suggestion of highlights. Because if I can do that well, then I can switch to color fairly easily. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Bring in some there will be fewer here, just a little bit. I don't think I'm going to bring the tree all the way over to cover this spot, so then we will, this tree is mostly in the light, so we will do much lighter down here. Are you painting? I am, Lola. This is canvas paper because I want to basically just do these as sketches, kind of studies almost, and then I will. Some of them I may want to do larger paintings of, but there's so much reference I got from my trip that they aren't all good enough to be. I mean, this one probably could be a whole painting, but I mostly just want to get the experience, and they wouldn't be a standalone painting. And so I am using canvas paper on this, yes. Okay, so we will put some highlight or suggestion of highlight across here. The only other thing we need, as far as we need to establish now, is this kind of wall that's back here. I'm not going to give it much detail other than just this, basically, that there is a wall there. And it's kind of back in there. Okay, so now we need to bring this down. So what I want to do is take some of this lighter color, see if I can start adjusting that. That's pretty dry, so we can start. Okay, I want kind of that little cupola here. Okay, now let's see if we can make it all blend together. Adjust that. So as I do this second pass, I'm going to try to give it a little form. So these are kind of darker spots, shadows. Kind of a mess at this point, but we'll see as we go if we can salvage this. That's what it's about, right? So this looks a little wonky because remember I'm actually cutting the arch right there, so all of this will be sky. But it looks a little funky right now. That will disappear. Okay, this is just most important form back here is that there is some form. Doesn't have to be very specific. So I'm just using very broad strokes. There's building, you see kind of through the trees back there, just so it's not just floating up in the air. Then yeah, and we'll get more and more specific as we go. Okay, now this thing. Okay. So very quickly, we're a half hour in and we have composition that I'm starting to like. So what I want to do actually is start adding some chroma. Let me step back just for a moment as I'm washing my brushes just to look at the painting, see if there is anything that I don't like. I think it's good. I think it's good. What I do want to do, I said I wasn't going to put the sidewalk in, so I want to go in and put in, this is all shadow, bring in shadows more there. And it'll come kind of up here. So instead of the sidewalk, we'll put grass in there. So we'll just, but right now it's highlight, so we'll just do and I think I'll actually put more, probably more a little more shadow down in here, just because again we want to draw the eye up here, so this needs to be all shadow. And it's okay, we can do that by putting our tree. So notice I have my tree shadow over here, so I'm moving it over a little more centered so it's more here. And we'll just put in that form right now. Eventually we'll put the trunk in there. Right now we'll just do some shadow, reestablish some of these shadows in this tree because we have it where we want it. So it's okay to good deal. Now we'll bring in some of this and reestablish. And then once I get these patterns worked out the way I want, that allows me to then go in and do, you know, the greens. Once I know where my light and shadows are, then it's like, oh, well then I can easily go in and switch these browns to tones of green, and I have a good underpainting as well. The brightest spots are going to be, of course, on the edge of the leaves. All right, now I'm gonna okay. I'm gonna quit overpainting this, but I'm starting to see the image I want to see. Actually, there's one more light. Spot that I really all right. Notice how well about to eat some Korean food. That sounds delicious. I will be going probably till about 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. I don't know if you're in Korea or if you're Central Time right now. But yeah, I'll be going for another probably hour and 20 minutes or so. And we'll see how far we get with this. Okay, y'all, now we are going to see if we can do, I think I got, okay, there you can see the whole top of the, so now what I want to do is do some blue. Some blue skies. All right, what's our rule about skies as far as the saturation of the blue? What's the rule? Anybody remember? It has to do with light source as well as horizon. You can see it in this photo pretty well. Anybody remember? I am going to get started, but something to think about. Anybody remember the rule about the sky? The color of the sky, the saturation of the sky. What is the rule? Or what's the rule of thumb, kind of the guideline? Yes, ma'am. Lighter on the horizon. You'll know I'm starting fairly light down here by the horizon. It's pretty translucent as well. I'll do the same on this side as I bring in some of the sky here. Why is that? Why is it that we do lighter at the horizon? What causes that? You can see it in the reference photo. It's a washed out kind of greenish blue down here, and then as it goes up, it becomes a much more cerulean blue. I'm doing kind of X-shaped strokes because that will then give me not a straight line around this, and it will give me different textures in the sky. So around the tree. Yes, Britt, you can see here on my palette, I have, oh, you can't see it on my palette. I have some cerulean blue and white right next to each other. So I started with cerulean blue and white, and I'm adding cerulean blue. I could have gone the opposite direction, but I started at the horizon. But this will give us a really nice contrast. So, and the reason for this is because there's more atmosphere to look through if you're going across, if you're looking vertically or horizontally across the horizon, where if you're looking up, there's less atmosphere as you go towards the sun. This is the same, or the light source. The same principle applies if you have the light off. Now this is a pretty high noon time, so the light's very harsh. But if you had a sunset, like, oh, let me pull the one we did a couple weeks ago. So let me just put that up real quick and back you out a little bit. The light source is here, so the closer we get to the light source, the lighter it is, and then the darker, which is common sense. But the further away from the light source we get, the more we do. Yeah, so that's the deal. That's the deal. Britt, you had asked about lightening the blue. In this case, I use white. Sometimes you don't want to use white because white will basically desaturate your color. So, for instance, when I get ready to do the light greens down here, I will actually desaturate the color with yellow as opposed to white, because I don't want a peppermint green in the grass. I want a light green. I want still that vibrant, bright, and that's one of the mistakes I made, I think, early as a early novice, was that I used white to lighten anything, and then you get frustrated because you get desaturated colors. And so one of the ways to keep from that from happening is to use, but in this case I actually do want to desaturate the color as I come down, and so that's what we do. Yeah. Really great questions. Really great questions. Thank you. Always makes it more interesting, I hope, to you all. Notice how I'm carving out my rotunda again to adjust the shape and bring it down. Remember I said we had to bring it down. So that's kind of what we'll do. And I think it's coming together. It's actually, this is making me happy. So we're getting there. A lot of this will be covered up by greenery anyway, but if we have some blue underneath, then it's going to shine through. And I'll do a little bit more over here. Come back with that light blue. And we'll just lighten this up. We'll do some, even though they're not there, we'll do some clouds up here. Or some suggestion of clouds. Basically variations in the sky, so it's not all just blue across cerulean, so that it really covers up. All right. Now we'll come in and carve this a little more. And again, I'm doing general shapes out here. But that way we get some feeling that this is a the perspective that it's coming out into the sky here, going away from us. But I think I'll have to all right, I like where this is going. So I think we have some good things happening. So yeah, we'll see. I'll have to build this up again. And we'll see how it goes. I was told the sky holes should be darker. Yes, you're right. I used the same paint just to get them, but when I go back after I add the trees in, I'll go back with the darker, because you want to match. From my guess is why you were told that, or why people do that, is because you want to match what's the value of what's around it, not necessarily this color up here. So this could be darker, but you want to bring this darker even though it's a little bit lower, because what's around it is dark. So if you have something super light, then it's really going to pop out and look weird. Because if I match to this color behind it, then when it's surrounded by green, it's going to look really much more light than it is and much more washed out. That's my guess. Okay. I like this. So what do you say we start adding some green in? Shall we add some green? Some of our trees. Oh my, I need a new drop cloth. My drop cloth underneath, because I have carpet in my studio and I rent, so of course I don't want paint on the carpet. So, but my drop cloth is a paper drop cloth and it's worked well, but I need a new one apparently, so I am going to have to. That's not bad. I have been exactly a year. Well, July 1st is a year in this apartment, so coming up on a year in this apartment. And I realized, or somebody locally in my community mentioned, that I moved here to this town June 4th was when I came, and that was when the robbery happened and everything. And the day I left on my Europe trip was June 4th. So it was exactly a year, which was kind of a neat serendipity that life had completely changed. All right. As I mentioned, to dilute, I'm going to use, I might start with yellow ochre instead of cad yellow. just for highlight's sake. I have sap green, I have some phthalo green, and some yellow ochre there. So let's see. I know, it's crazy how the year has flown. All right, so what I want to do is put also a little blue, because that will darken. I want to take this phthalo green and I think some blue, mix it in, and maybe a little red, or a little, we want to desaturate, not desaturate, but basically make the green so it's not as blah in your face. So we'll add some burnt umber, which will, the red in the burnt umber will contrast with the phthalo green to give us a more realistic grass tone. So this will be our dark grass tone. So we'll start to kind of put our shadows in. And this can be in the grass. I'm going to start down here in the grass. And now I'm really mimicking what we did with the browns in the underpainting. So I'm using the same kind of value scale to try to do the, and I'm just dabbing the paper to get some uneven textures. Because we have all different intensities of the shadow here. So we take this, okay, there's some shadow. We'll start to bring this shadow upward into the tree. Just the same. Again, we're mixing that red and the burnt umber. It's hard to see. I can't wait till I can have real lights on my palette that will show you how vibrant this green is, and then you kind of, I don't even know what the term would be, but make it less less intense, I guess, and it just ends up being more realistic. Okay, and I'm just dabbing this one. I'm actually going to mix instead of the, I'm going to do the raw umber instead of the, oh, I put way too much on there. Instead of the, because this needs to be, and it needs to be almost a black. So we need it much darker. So I'm doing blue, green, and raw umber to give us that ultramarine blue, kind of that deep, almost black color. Up in these trees. And I'm just dabbing the paper to kind of give the illusion of some organic form. Then we can come in and do some additional but this is completely in shadow, so I want to really make sure that's really dark. Then we'll I'm going to add a little sap green as we go north or up. We'll mix this in, take a little bit blue out and more yellow into the shadows as we come up. These shadows in this tree, it's a little less as we come down, then okay. It's a little yellow. Kind of give a mid-tone out here. Do this in the grass as well. We'll give some of that. It's not light at all, but it gives a lighter component. Again, without drawing the eye too dramatically to it, because if we added white, then we would have like a Pepto-Bismol color down here almost. Not Pepto-Bismol, but like a peppermint, really diffused green, which would be kind of antithetical. So by doing this, I can suggest the lighter and I'm going to go ahead and use this as kind of a green underpainting where my lightest lights are, and this will be pure highlight once I get going, or once I do more. But this will give us that beginning feeling of where, and this will be another check of, are the highlights in the right places? Is the value scale still working for us? Isn't that amazing how just adding that, when we get the values right with that brown underpainting, then all of a sudden all the other kind of falls into place, or starts to fall into place. So This is good. And gives us something to build highlights on top of. Okay. I like where this is going. I like. I think it's the right decision that we made to remove the sidewalk, because we'll just have the wall there. So yeah, I think we're going in the right direction. So now let's start to draw out some of these highlights. We don't want to cover up the dark at all, but we do want to start to because what will make the highlights pop is the contrast with the dark. So now I'm going to do this a little backwards, and it may end up biting me, but we're going to do that. I am really liking how this is coming together, y'all. The more layers and variations we get on this, the better it will end up looking. So I'm not too concerned about this. So now let's do we're lightening a little bit. Now we're bringing some yellow down into here. Slowly raising the chroma, meaning the color of this so that eventually it will be, I'm still adding quite a bit of brown and green and such to, so this is almost like a G.I. Joe green in this. Okay, I'm going to quit overpainting that, but this is cool to start to see some. Now, I need to go back and do some of this dark shadow work. So the blues, blacks, all of that up in here because we lost it a little bit. So I want to establish those shadows again because most of this is shadow. So I'm just going to dab the, that's too blue. So we'll bring in some red, some brown. Okay. All right, let's see, we need to bring over here, we need to fill a lot of this in with shadow trees or shadows of the trees. Okay. Not sure how much I like that, but it's coming. So we'll let it rest for a minute. What I do want to do is come and start to establish the trunks. So I'm doing some raw umber and ultramarine blue because I want as close to black as I can get. So let's see if we can choose this spot. Okay, let's do... There we go. Start to get that grounded. I'm making this all part of one tree, so I'm going to make it a little more defined. Then I'm going to kind of do think use a synthetic brush, has a little bit more of a firm so let's see if we can do the edge of this, if we can get it to be more yeah, I'm just going to take the edge of this synthetic brush then. And this is something I'm learning in real time actually, because I will give some of these some structure to this. Tree. We'll do just a little bit of the same over here. We'll know I'm being quiet now. You can always tell I get quiet when my brain is working overtime. Ha! Okay. I think that's good for now. I think it's good for now. Now what I want to do is return to the building, and I'm not sure how to tackle this because I'm not sure. Well, I think I want to do I think it's gray. So we'll take this blue. Some brown. Try to make it light. Okay. See if we can get a gray tone. Trying to mix a gray here that isn't too purple. Because I want to do shades of kind of the shadow areas, I think. So I want to start emphasizing shadow area there. Now mixing with that same gray, then I brought in some more white and some burnt sienna, or not burnt sienna, burnt umber. So you can see the gray tone, the cooler tone, and the warmer tone, but they're similar, they're like siblings. So the goal is then to try, we'll see, can we do the warmer tone next to the other as additional shadow tone. Whoops. This should give us some beginning of some form. Yeah, this is working a little bit. So do the shadow there. Okay, we're starting. So that's helping me. Now the key is not to overdo. I think now it's time to switch to the synthetic so I can get a better line. Let's see. Okay. I learned this shadow, when you have a white colored anything in shadow, adding purple tones or cooling down the tones are how you make it appear that it's in shadow but still well lighted. And I learned that by painting. Some of you will remember a couple years ago when I was trying to figure out how to paint birch trees in shadow. So yeah, that's the deal. So I'm just establishing these large spots. And I think I'm going to add a little brown. It'll be a little bit darker. To do the wall. So let's put the wall in here. Start to suggestion of this wall here. All right, we have about 25 minutes to finish up. I guess this turned into more than a sketch, didn't it? But that's okay. It's good to think through all these things. At least it's good for me to think through all these things. And I'm just going to take a little bit of lighter, the same color, but diffusing it with white so I can put a right along the top of the wall, a definitive highlight. So that it's clear the sun is shining from above. Yeah, it kind of gives us that. This is in Lisbon, Bob, and it is the National Pantheon. It's basically a museum to the a museum to famous figures in Portuguese history. It is, if you Google the National Pantheon Lisbon, it'll pop up and you'll see pictures of it. Sits up on a hill, kind of on the, I think, honestly, I don't know what side of town it is. But like when I'm there, I know which direction it is, but I don't know what actual direction it is. If that makes sense. Now I went a little too far on the value scale over here. You can see that where it suddenly jars your eye because it's like way too dark over here. So we need to fix that a little bit. So let's see. It needs a little more red, doesn't it? Just by a few brush strokes, you can indicate the detail, even though it's not very detailed at all, which is good because we don't really want a lot of detail over there. I'm doing some on the wall just so that it doesn't few. Ugh. All right, we're going to have to wrap this one up. There's a little more. I want to go and add some highlights in the trees, the more highlight in the grass, but we're getting there. I want to redefine the sky. I want to correct this because it looks like it's coming out at an angle there. And then I want to send that backward a little bit. But we are basically there. Let me do one little thing. Because it's going to drive me crazy if not. Not a bad little study of shadows and form. Actually going to take my smallest brush, I think. Actually need a synthetic for this, but... And we're going to put there. Across. I still think I could have sunk this down a little bit, made this a little more, but it's like anything, working a little more practice into it, and eventually we'll get there. All right. Well, I want to say thank you to all of you for joining me once again for the paint party. I am going to change our camera angle so that I can switch this back to, whoops. I can flip it around to chat at you just to wrap up this time. I want to say again, thanks for joining me in the studio. Set this up, then. All right, then I can kind of say, all right, so I want to say thank you so much for joining me in the studio once again. Let me look actually, because I know in the US we have the July 4th holiday coming, and that is next Monday. So because it is July 4th, we will not do the paint party on that Monday, but we will pick up the following Monday, which would be the 11th of July. So I will see you again on the 11th of July. You can keep in touch with me on Instagram, as most of you know, at Stephen E. Rice. You can see photos, progress photos, what I'm working on in the studio. The next couple of months will be really busy with work, so I don't know that I'll be in the studio a lot, but that's where you can follow. Also on my stories there are where I post a little more personal things, so not necessarily just art. So I had posted a couple days ago a lot of photos from my trip that was on Instagram. So if you're interested in that kind of content, you can keep track of me there. All right, I want to say thank you again to all of you. I said it 2 or 3 times, but I want to say thank you for joining me again after several weeks hiatus. Now we're going into another week, but I didn't want to leave it when I was here and could jump back in the studio. So I will see you not next week, but Monday the 11th, same time here, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Look forward to seeing you then. If you celebrate, have a very safe and happy July 4th Independence Day here in the United States, and I will see you next time on the Paint Party Livestream. Everybody, have a good night.